We'll get started. So this is finance training. This is the second session. So if you were here earlier, thanks for coming back, but you only need to go to one session anyway. So we'll just get started. And this is for treasurers and presidents of clubs and societies, though if they're not able to attend, thank you for coming in their place. So the format of this session, recommend you just take notes throughout. There'll be some key bits of information, but don't worry if you don't catch everything. This session is recorded and the slides will be shared on our resource page, so you can go through it at any time during the year. We're just going to go through it as quick as possible so we don't take the full 2 hours. I don't think we will. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session if you've got any questions to ask about anything, but you can put them in the chat throughout. We'll try and get around to them as we're presenting, but maybe best to wait to the end. And then the point of the session is for you to then pass it back to your club or society committee members, but also your members about stuff that will affect them. And just a reminder that this session is recorded and will be published online. So this is your last chance to turn your camera off before we get started if you don't want to be in the video. Cool. So who are we? As the activities department, we help to enable you to put on your events, compete in competitions and carry out volunteering opportunities, as well as much more. This training, along with all the other sessions we're running over the next fortnight, is to help you be as autonomous as possible. There are many key details, including this one is a lot of legal things, which is why we need you guys to be here, and anyone who's not will have to fill out a little questionnaire, just so that we can make sure that you've taken in this information so you're more comfortable making decisions, but also as many of them require legal aspects. You can ask questions in the chat, as mentioned, and we'll be here at the end of the presentation for any longer questions. And if you get any questions throughout the year, you can just email the Socks or Blades account, but we've covered most of the FAQs we normally get year in, year out. So this should be answering them all, so just wait if it's not come up. Yeah. So what are your roles? So you're probably president or treasurer, and together you have the primary responsibility for all of your club and society finances. You're responsible for paying in money received through events and fundraising. This is money you make. And your job is to authorize all expenses back, which is when members have spent their own money. President only will approve when the treasurer is claiming back, because you can't approve your own, for instance. And you must, as the president and treasurer, attend all your exec committee meetings and present a detailed summary of your club or society's accounts. So you'll get these sent through to you, but it's really key that you're reporting back on the money you've had come in, where the money is being spent, because students, members will pay a membership fee. They want to know where that money is going. So it'll be just good to give them an update so they're not asking questions, you're ahead of the game in those meetings. And you must attend meetings that we call as the student activities team, as it'll be role required stuff. There's a brief summary.
Cool, thank you. So your account, so when you start receiving your weekly finance reports, it will look a little bit like you've got your own bank accounts. At the moment, you'll be receiving blank weekly finance reports. We've done everything on our end that we need to do. We're just waiting for the finance department now to change a couple of the documents over that this program links to. But even though it look like you have your own bank account, you don't actually have your own. It's just basically like a subsection within the SU's main bank account. Societies and clubs can't open their own bank accounts. It's against the law. It's very, very long-winded, but essentially it's because we're a charity. So all income and expenditure has to go through official places, basically. And to have money going through separate places means getting out of paying certain bits of VAT, etc. I won't bore you with all the details of that, but that's why you can't open your own bank accounts. When you deal with any money, like I said, it will go through the SU's bank details, and then our finance team will direct it to the right places so that it then shows up on your finance reports every week. So understanding your weekly finance report, I do get that this looks like a bit of a mess. It is a little bit complicated at first, so I would just suggest after this, coming back to this report again, back to this slide again, sorry, and just kind of taking a little bit of a look through it so you can just familiarize yourself with it. The top section, it will be the club or society balance carried forward from the previous year. So societies, that will mean any of your money, because societies and clubs work a little bit differently with their money, but societies, that'll be any money that you have at all will get carried over. And with clubs, it will be anything that is left in your non-budgeted funds. And we'll talk about why that is in a little while. Underneath that, there you go, you've got non-budgeted funds. So that's any money raised this year that is not from any budgeted source. And again, this only applies to clubs because societies are a little bit freer with their money. But this is from things, so any tickets that you sell online, any memberships that you sell, those sort of things, that'll be in your non-budgeted funds. And then for clubs, you've got your budgeted funds. That's the money that's been allocated to you by the university. So the university allocate us as a department a certain amount of money every year to help with things like your kit or your equipment, and then this gets distributed out accordingly to different clubs, just to make sure that it's fair, dependent on if you've got like more teams than others, that kind of thing. And there's a section on there for expenditure as well. So anything that you do spend, whether that be through any invoices you supply us with, or if it's through the expense forms, either in like the physical ones or the online ones, that will then show up there with a little negative sign next to it, just to indicate that that is your expenditure. On the right hand side, it's just blanked out just because it's a random clubs from it is 4 years ago now, so it probably wouldn't matter too much, but just for the sake of anonymity. But in those bits, it's basically a description of what your expense or your income is from. It's really important with the expense ones that when you are filling out your expense forms, that it's really, really clear. You give a good description of what the expense is for, just so that it displays on here, because that's what the finance department will use to mark down what you've bought or what you spent your money on. I think it repeats it again later in this session, but your members have the right to request your finance report at any point during the year, and you cannot say no. You have to say yes. So it's just always important to get those explanations as to what your expenses were really, really clear, so that there's never any confusion with your members. Just a little bit at the bottom of that slide, so just check your junk folder for your finance reports. Sometimes that will get sent to that folder by mistake, so just mark that one. I think you can right click and then click on make it a safe sender, basically, just so that it will always come through to your main inbox. Yeah, as I said, so they have to submit a request in writing, so just an email, to either the president or the treasurer of the society or club, and yeah, any member can see that weekly finance report. So what's in your account? So the society's end of things, again, I've touched on it already, but you have your membership funds. So on your main society page, you have the option to buy a membership, and sometimes if you charge that, obviously you get some money from it. This will have VAT deducted from it, and we'll talk a bit more about VAT in a little while, but this will all display in that membership section of your finance report, and it will clearly just describe it down the right hand side as well as standard membership or society membership is one of the two. And then you have any other funds, and these will usually come from two sources. So that's if you've paid money in that you've raised at an event. So it might be something on Squares, like you've had a bake sale, and you've got 50 quid in cash, and then you've gone to the SE reception and used one of the paying in forms to pay that money in, and then that would display on your weekly finance report, and it'll be in your basically in your account, as we call it. And then all money that you've raised from ticket sales through the website. So again, this is how VAT deducted. So if you've got an event coming up, you can ask to request tickets, and we'll put tickets online for you, and we'll put it at a certain price, whatever you want it to be. And that will be where another place where you make a lot of your money. External organizations can also make donations, or you can get into contracts to have sponsorships with them. And there's going to be some more info on that again later on that will help to make that a bit clear and the process clear on that. But always just please, just get in contact with us if you've ever got any questions. Yeah, don't arrange any of this basically without speaking to us at all first. Unlike before, so this is when the kind of refers to the Sock Guild when that was active. Some of you might not even know what the Sock Guild is, but it was something that was in place a few years back that made spending a little bit more restricted. That's gone now, and this probably, to be honest, will be the last year that we include this little notice, because most people won't know about the Sock Guild anymore. But now things are a little bit more relaxed about what you can spend your money on. So any income that comes from your memberships can now be spent on a little bit more of a variety of things. Usually it would have to be spent on something that could benefit everyone. but now we can allow a little bit more flexibility. But we've said it before, we'll say it again. Make sure that any spending you do really, unless it's really small bits that kind of are, like for freshers fare, that kind of stuff, make sure that any spending you do is told to the members. Basically, give them a chance to get involved in what you're spending your money on. Like I said, they can question anything you spend your money on, so you don't want people being unhappy with what you've decided. Liv.
Cool. So looking at the sports side, again, as Jack mentioned, it is slightly different because of funding that sports clubs receive through the Essex Sports Board grant. So at the top, you can see the cost of running your sports club. And this is the total amount of money spent from your budget and non-budget club accounts. We'll go through what those are a bit, and the total club spend figure for the year normally, and includes the generated income through your club memberships. Below you can see it's got other key bits of information of your membership fee and the number of people who have bought it, and works it all out. And then you have a contribution from the Students' Union, which is the Blades Exec and the Sports Board, towards your sports club, and then it separates out where that money is allocated. And this is allocated money which you'll receive in your budget, and this comes from the block grant from the uni, and it's divided out between all of our sports clubs to best support all of our Blades members, and it's done through Blades Exec. So as you can see in this example, there's a set amount for equipment and coaching, and that money can only be spent on equipment, coaching in the budget. And then at the bottom, you've got the total amount of money for that academic year. If you don't use it, you lose it, because the money will go back to the university if it is unspent at the end of the year. However, you will have something called club savings, and that is an unrestricted fund. This is what you can be spent on anything to benefit your whole club still. And you've got a restricted fund, which is, as we mentioned, with stuff that will go back. But your club savings are built up from fundraising you've done throughout the years, club membership money, basically the savings that your club has, and the budget is the stuff you get just for one academic year. So yeah, with the budgeted funds, this money is allocated into your budget. It comes from the university, so the Essex Sports Board is allocated by the Blades Executive Committee and is split between all of our sports clubs accordingly. If you don't spend it, you lose it, so it will go back to university at the end of the year. So it's really important you keep on top of this stuff, but we'll be working with you, and the Blades Exec Treasurer will be working with you throughout the year on making sure you're not just spending it, but you're investing it in good stuff that will benefit your club in the present year, but in the years to come. And if you're not likely to spend it, let us know and we'll work with you, because we can reallocate it for stuff that can benefit all of our Blades members as well, but all maybe into bigger things when you can collaborate with other clubs where things might be useful. With the non-budgeted funds, this money is fundraised through your club or can be through your membership fees. So this is money you've got year on year, unless you've spent it. This money in your non-budget account will roll over year on year. So it can be kept as savings, which sometimes it's referred to as. It can be spent on anything that will still benefit the club that has not been allocated. So it doesn't have to be equipment or travel. It can be other stuff because that's allocated. Spending this money must be approved by all your club committee. You can't just make the decision as treasurer. Please take it to your committee meetings. You can discuss it as a group just to ensure that it's being spent the best way by all your members, because this is fundamentally their membership fees at the end of the day. Cool, so here are just some important bits to take in. Any money that your club or society has cannot be used to purchase alcohol. There have been exceptions authorised by the Gin Activities team. For example, if a society was the Gin Appreciation Society and one of their aims when they were ratified was around discovering and trying different types of gin, they may have to purchase gin in order to fulfil the role of their society. However, this is a very niche one, so if you've got any questions on this, it's just best to ask, so send us an email, either to the Stocks or Blades account. Any money that your club or society has cannot be used to purchase any illegal substances. I don't think I need to go too much into that one. Just don't do anything illegal with this money. And also the activities team has the right to reject any invoice or expense claim. So please check with us before you make a payment, as then we can let you know before you spend your own money on whether it will be something that you're allowed to be reimbursed for, because you may be breaking some of this stuff, for instance. The next bit, all income and expenses must go through the Students' Union official bank account. Never offset expenses against income and pay the difference. This avoids VAT and therefore would be illegal. We'll go into that in a sec, but the exemption to this, if you've raised money for charity, you can claim the expenses directly from the money raised before you pay the remaining money off to charity. So just put it in a practical example, I know it's quite text heavy. If you have raised £100 for your club or society at a bake sale on Square 3, and you spent £20 of your own money on ingredients, you can't just take the £20 you spent out of the money you made and then only give £80 into the bank account. You have to pay the whole £100 into the bank account and then put an expense form through for the £20 you're owed back for buying the ingredients, because otherwise there would not be VAT on this, and that is illegal. The only difference is with charity, because of the differences in VAT and charity law. When you raise £100 and it is going to a registered charity like mine charity, for instance, at the bake sale, you are able to take that £20 back that you spent on the ingredients and then just give the remaining 80 back into the Students' Union bank account. So the only difference, so this is the main difference, depending on if you're fundraising for yourself as a club or society or for a charity. The next bit, it is also illegal for a club or society to have a separate bank account or for any member to pay any society member into their own account. If a society does this, there will be consequences faced and you could potentially face closure. So just don't. But if your society raises money for charity, you must either claim expenses from your non-budgeted fund if your members agree, or deduct the amount from the money raised and then pay the remainder into a RAG account. So RAG stands for Raising and Giving, and that is slightly different because it's different sort of fundraising. And this is because the SU is a registered charity, so we cannot make direct payments to other charities in the normal way. It is not illegal to deduct money straight from the cash you've made because no VAT is taken on any money raised for charity. So as a charity, we can't directly donate to a charity, but we do have the exemption as a students' union for this to be done through RAG, which is Raising and Giving. So fundamentally, the bank account that you have is separate for a students' union RAG account, which is for donating. So the money will need to go into a separate area for donations because your club or society sits under the SU, not the exemption of the RAG funding. So we'll just need to be told and then we can move it around for you. Well, not we, the finance team will do that. But so yeah, the RAG account, which again, Raising and Giving, is another branch of the SU's bank account. You still pay the money in via the same way, though this time you'll need to email us, so either Societies or Blades, and SU Finance, and state the amount you paid in, which club or society it was on behalf of, and which charity the money should be paid to, and then their address and bank details of the charity so they can get that done. Unfortunately, we cannot make payments to donation pages such as GoFundMe or Just Giving.
Cool, thank you. So how can a budget be helpful? Budgets are something that we used to have kind of compulsory. I know that obviously sports, you still have a budget, but societies in particular, you don't have this anymore. We still recommend you do it, and it's mainly because of two reasons. So one is a prioritization framework. Just means you can kind of sit down at the start of the year, plan your events, sort of think about how much you want at your events, and how much that's going to all cost you. And then it allows you to then look at what you've got in your accounts and see kind of how much you're going to need to fundraise. So what you need to be planning, the scale of events that you're going to be able to have this year, and kind of go from there. And also just to kind of see where that funding is going to need to come from. If you're going to get by just having member contributions, so whether that be tickets for an event or whether that just be from their memberships, but you might feel that you need to go out and do some fundraising or some crowdfunding, like with the Click platform, which we'll discuss in a bit, or looking for sponsorships or contract or donations, that kind of thing as well. Just to kind of see what you need to do to be able to make your events as big as they can be and as best as they can be. But yeah, so we'd recommend doing one of them. And also, sorry, to allow members to query your spending as well. Kind of mentioned that earlier, but yeah, just to give them the chance to sort of say what they think you should be spending the societies or clubs money on as well. So VAT, societies and clubs must pay VAT at a rate of 20% on any income they receive. So you must factor that into any spending and decision making with your money. So if you expect to make £100 from an event, obviously 20% of that is going to go to the tax man, as they say. So when you're then planning your next event, you've got to make sure that only, what are you looking at, Dom? Yeah. Sorry. No, sorry. So just make sure that when you're planning your next event, you only budget for sort of £80 extra from that event that you take forward. You can claim back any VAT that you pay when you buy goods or you pay for travel, but you have to ask for a VAT receipt when you pay. So if you go and get a load of baking ingredients from Tesco, then you can ask for a VAT receipt, which means that the SU and in turn your society or club can get back the VAT. But you've got to ask for that. They won't give you one as standard. It will just be a normal receipt that they give you. So just make sure that you ask for a VAT receipt. So yeah, to calculate the VAT, you just have to divide by 1.2. So for example, if you made £40 at a fundraising event, £40 divided by 1.2 is £33.33. So that's the amount that would then go into your funds. Let's say if you made that off ticket sales, for example, if it was one ticket at £40, obviously there's going to be different levels of VAT. If you sell things online, like tickets £5 a ticket, it'll be 20% of each £5 that you pay, that someone pays essentially. Claiming expenses. So normally, as the costs are usually fairly low, we would recommend, and members will usually pay for items up front and then claim back expenses. But we can pay larger amounts upon an invoice, or we can purchase items on your behalf if our department charge card will allow for it. But just don't rely on that charge card. It has a monthly limit, and quite often we will reach that limit. So don't sort of expect that that's going to be able to happen. That will kind of be a last resort. It says that invoices must be made out to the University of Essex Students' Union and not your name or the name of your club or society or even the University of Essex. I'll give you the proper format again in a little while when we talk a bit more about invoices. Expense forms must be completed by the person that's claiming the money back and then signed off by the treasurer. But if the treasurer is the person claiming that expense, then obviously it's got to be someone else. So we go to the president that then needs to sign that. If the reimbursement is being made by cash, obviously at the moment we're not suggesting you do this, just we're trying to be as COVID safe and COVID secure as possible. But if you do need to get it something reimbursed by cash, then you'll go to reception, you'll pick up a expenses form, fill that all out, then it will come to us, we'll sign it and give it back. And then reception will contact you to say that your money is ready to collect. And then you've just got to bring with you your student ID. And for clubs, we touched upon it earlier as well, but you can only claim expenses if the item or the items that you're claiming for is in your approved budget. So the online expense form is something we introduced last year, and it was because of COVID, obviously, that we introduced that, but it's worked out really nicely. To make this process easier, we're now allowing, I say we're now allowing, but we are allowing, as of last year, you guys to authorize expenses up to the value of £50. Those are the links there. Hopefully you're all familiar with the exec resources page, but you can also find those links on there. They're really clearly labeled, so you can find which one you need. Those forms, it will be basically inputting details like your name, your Essex email address, and your club or society name, and the info about what your expense, what you're claiming for, essentially. Once it's completed, it will then go to the treasurers to sign, or like I said, the president if the treasurer is the person making the claim. It's a DocuSign or an e-sign. I can never remember which one it is. But basically, it's an online form that will come directly to your email, and then you can basically open this link, take a look at what the expense is, and make sure that like there's a receipt attached, for example, and then it will give you a chance to press a button where it will take you to the part where you need to sign that online form. So it's really, really simple. But if it is more than £50, just because it is a larger payment, then it will come directly to us, one of us in the staff team here, and then we'll sign that off if we're happy with it. If your club or society has not appointed a president or a treasurer, then the form will come to us in the staff team, and then one of us will sign it, just like if it's over £50. Next, I think either at the end of this week or the end of next week, just after we've got a few more of those positions filled in, if they are still vacant, we'll be sending the list of presidents and treasurers off to our finance team. So maybe as of next week or the week after, you can expect to start receiving those expense forms through. The payment, so this goes for online expense forms, invoices, anything like that, anything to do with payments. Our finance team usually processes them on a Wednesday and a Wednesday lunch at the latest point. If they are processed correctly and everything goes through fine, then the person that has put in that form should receive their money back by the Friday of the same week, so 2 days later. If the reimbursement is needed quickly, then just make sure to get that form completed by Monday lunch. And to give everyone enough time, because there might even be something wrong with your expense form, and then we need to come back to you and ask you a question about it. So you just need to give enough time for the worst case scenario to be resolved. Just if you're a treasurer, and even if you're a president, make sure that you just relay all this information back to your members, so that if they are the ones that are claiming money, they know that they have to get that done by sort of Monday morning, so that then you as the president or the treasurer have got enough time, and you can get them signed off by the Monday lunchtime, so that everything goes through on time. Once the payment has been made, so once the person's got their money back, your weekly finance report should then reflect this expenditure, and the student details from that type form, from the expense form, that will be removed from our website. So yeah, hopefully that's quite a so what is the limit of claiming expenses? There is no limit. Obviously, it depends on what is in your budget. Just to quickly answer that question, sorry. It depends what you've got in your funds. If you need to pay for something that's £500 and you've got £500, obviously that's a big payment. So check with your members that they're happy for you to authorise that expense, but that's feasible. But yeah, obviously we'd recommend coming and talking to us if you've got anything larger that needs to be paid for. Just we don't want you to be out of pocket for a week and be struggling financially whilst you're waiting for that money to be paid back to you. And again, make sure to remind your members not only just about the Monday deadline, but also ask them to get that VAT receipt. If they ignore that, so that I missed out VAT on the second bullet point, but if it's meant to say if they do not get a VAT receipt, then it doesn't matter. They can still get that money back with a normal receipt, but no receipt is no reimbursement, because we just can't be sure that you have actually bought those items. Obviously, we're sure you wouldn't lie to us, but it's just a process we have to follow, unfortunately. So yeah, no receipt at all, no reimbursement. So invoices, so they usually come from scenarios where societies or clubs, you might hire performers, singers or dancers, that kind of thing for an event, or you might even pay for travel costs for a guest speaker, or you might hire a surround sound system for an event, something like that. Usually like a bigger payment. Yeah, usually like a bigger payment that we don't really want you to be paying out of your own pocket. Like I said, we don't want you to be waiting for like a week to get that money back, or even longer maybe if something goes wrong. Invoices need to clearly state the bank details of whom the money will be sent to. So that will be usually like the performer or the company that you're paying, whatever it might be. The date in which they provided a service, and a good description of what the service was. So it might be that a singer sends you the invoice and it's got her name on it, her bank details, and the date in which she sung for your society or your club, and then it would say singing for this event. Might have the name of your event, whatever it might be. Yeah, so it'd be just clearly stated. Any invoice that states foreign currency, so we do have some societies and clubs sometimes that will hire in a performer maybe from a different country, but any invoice that states a foreign currency will usually be equivalent to the conversion rate as of the day that our finance team processes that invoice. So it might just be worth making the performer or the company, whatever it might be, just making them aware that that's how the conversion rate will work, just in case they expect a certain amount of money and maybe the conversion rate drops and they might receive a little bit less. That will be why that happens. Yeah, so the Wednesday to Wednesday schedule, remember that again with invoices, the same rule applies. And unless there's been an error, they should receive the money on the Friday. Make sure if you're a club, obviously, to Blades, and if you're a society, come to SU Socks, the email addresses, but make sure you send your invoices to us again by the Monday morning, and we'll get that into the payment run. You can usually, you can get them across to us now just via email, but if anything's wrong on it, we have to then, I think I've got it on the next one, maybe, I don't know. If anything's wrong with it, we do have to go back and make those edits and then speak to the person that is claiming the money. So just make sure all the details are correct on there, so that we can get that done as smoothly as possible. Plan your events in as much advance as possible, so that invoices can be dealt with in good time. Every company in the world can produce an invoice. Some of them will want you to make a direct bank transfer and will tell you that they can't do invoices, and that's a complete lie. You, as just a human being without a company, you can provide your own invoice for anything you want to provide an invoice for. So if they seem reluctant, just press on anyway and get an invoice. It's the easiest way that we can make payments. Yeah, we just do it mainly so that you don't have to make these payments out of your bank account and be waiting to be reimbursed. It's not practical for you, and we don't want you to be in any kind of financial trouble at any point in your life, really. I was going to say in the year, but in your life, really. So as an example, if you're arranging a trip to Roller World in December, you could contact them in October and say, we want to book it for the 14th of December at 7 p.m. And they will need the payment for that to be confirmed. So at that point, you can say to them, can you provide us with an invoice? And then Roller World will get that invoice to you, or you can even get them to send it directly across straight to our email, and then we can have that paid in really, really good time. Like I said, even in months in advance if you want us to, just so that you definitely get that slot at Roller World. But just, please ask us before you agree to any invoices if you're really not sure on whether we're going to accept them or not. So so this is kind of the slight, this is like a template that I often use if I'm ever using an invoice or giving an invoice template out to any members of societies or clubs. But just when it says bill to, that means that the person is billing us for it, and it has to be the University of Essex Students' Union, Wivenhoe Park, Colchester, CO4 3SQ. Never addressed to your society or your club or you as an individual or any one of us in the staff team. That's the exact address that it has to go to. I said it before, if it includes any incorrect details, then we have to keep liaising with the person or the company who is trying to get their money. And that will just slow down the whole process. It could be an extra week or extra 2 weeks or however long it might be before they receive their money. So when it comes to getting an invoice, I just recommend coming back over these slides again, downloading this presentation, just having a look at all the details you need, just so that process is as easy as possible. And the last one for me before I hand back over to Liv, the SU cannot pay fees to external speakers. So this will be usually, there's a number of reasons, but the easy example or the easy reason that I usually normally give is to do with political affiliation. So the SU as a charity, we do not have a political bias, and therefore if we paid £100 for a Labour MP to come and speak at a society event, us paying them could be an indication of a preference to it, a political stance. So we cannot pay any fees to external speakers, but we can pay their travel costs, the cost of a meal, and that excludes alcohol, obviously, and the cost of any printing materials. If that meal, for example, though, does have a free glass of wine, or not a free glass of wine, but a glass of wine wrapped in as part of the meal, that's fine. It's just if we can't pay for any extra drinks that you buy that are not included in the price of a meal. If a member of your society or club does collect that external speaker by car, then you can use that little link that I've put on there to just calculate how many miles that would be, and then times the mileage by 25 pence per mile. Just when it comes to doing the expense form online, just make sure you use a screenshot of that the website once you've done the route planner, and then include that on as a picture, just basically like a receipt essentially. But as I said, you can pay fees to external performers, so like I said before, like singers or dancers. But if you're ever unsure on whether there's someone that you want to have at your event and you don't know if you can pay them or not, then please, like I said, just ask us first if you're ever unsure of anything. Cool, Liv.
Cool. Okay, so on to sponsorship. So clubs and societies are allowed to seek sponsorship from external organisations. The sponsors' aims cannot conflict with students' union policy, and the agreement need to be approved by the student activities team before it can go through, and also has to be signed by the director of finance at the students' union. So if a organisation does approach you about sponsorship, we really want this to go through. We just have to work within our guidelines, which is the policy document. So just let us know early on, either through the Socks or Blades account, and we can go through it with you all and check it's okay, because there are some restrictions on who can sponsor you, and also they can take any, even a thumbs up to a message as an agreement, so we don't need to get caught in any legal bits. So a society and club representatives are not permitted to enter into any form of contract on behalf of their club or society. And remember, most contracts are not formal, signed documents. Many are established by a conversation, a text, a social media message, or email. So never agree with anything before consulting us before. We encourage you to seek sponsorships where possible, just as long as mentioned, you've never entered an official agreement with anyone without speaking to us. When approaching us to discuss a potential agreement, just email us with the following details so we can look into it further. The name of the organisation you want to enter an agreement with, the organisation's address, what organisation wants to give you. So in return of sponsoring you, they'll give you something, but also they'll want something in return. So we just need to know that information, and when the agreement will start and end. So here's a mock-up example. So this is an email that the hockey club will have sent in. The El Guaca, based in Colchester on the high street, wants to sponsor them £100 to make 3 Instagram posts, 1 per week for 3 weeks, about their restaurant, and would like to start the agreement now, and the agreement will end when the final post has been done. That level of information answers the 5 questions and will be key for them to send through to the Blades account. Okay, moving on to donations. So if you're lucky, you may get some alumni or organisations that may want to just offer a donation to financially support your club or society. In this case, they need to make the payment into the SU's bank account. So please email SU Finance and us, so the Blades Societies team, to state who they are, what organisation they're from, how much they have donated, and specifically saying the words charitable donation, that this is a charitable donation. By stating that it is a charitable donation, the money will not be subjected to VAT, and the person and organisation donating it is therefore acknowledging that they do not want anything in return. So just some small bits, but it makes quite a big difference when it comes to a donation. Fundraising. Generally, you should buy what you need for a fundraising event beforehand, as it's more useful being there, and then claim the money back afterwards through a normal expense form. However, if the items you're purchasing for a fundraiser cost a bit more, e.g. if you wanted a dunk tank or something, and you'll need to plan this in advance and get the company to provide an invoice then for the SU for that item. When paying any money raised, use the RAG form, which is the raising and giving form, and this can be collected from SU reception. SU reception is on square 3, near the SU bar and Sub-Zero and the big staircase. For fundraising events, please take a float. A float is another word used for loose change. For instance, if it costs £2 and someone only has a £5 note, you'll need to give the money in return. So make sure you've just got some money in order to complete that transaction. And the SU can't provide these though. So just make sure you put some money and some coins or however you want to do it aside, and then check how much you've started with. So there won't be any disputes at the end of the day about how much was started and how much you've ended up with. And then another avenue of fundraising is called Click fundraising. So this link will be hyperlinked when you get the document at the end. And it is a fantastic way to fundraise for your club or society, as Click is the University of Essex crowdfunding platform. So crowdfunding is funding a project or venture by raising lots of small amounts of money from a large number of people. So if you found 250 people to all give you £1, you'll have £250, but you will also get that matched by the University Click program. So you'll end up with £500 to go towards this cause. This can change every year, however, so make sure you just double check what the number is before you start. And what you'll need to do is you'll set out a goal. So if you want to raise, £50, you'll set a certain date on it. So by that date, let's say 3 weeks time, you want to make £50, and then it'll be matched through Click funding. If you don't reach your goal of the £50 in that 3-week period, the money will all go back to the people who donated it, and you'll not get it matched. So, you want to set a high goal to get that full amount matched by the university, but also if you don't reach it, they won't just match the amount you got to, but also if you smash your target in week 1, you will have to wait for that 3-week period in order to get the money matched and the money to come through. So just think it through when you're planning what you're buying it for, and it just, in your venture or your pitch, it has to be to something really specific. So you could say, I don't know, a new goalie kit, and that money will be used for a goalie kit. You need to be quite specific in, trying to get this funding. There's some personal experience there. And this money will be found afterwards. And if you don't make it the pledge, the money will go back. So that's Click funding.
Cool, thank you. So paying money into the SU's bank account. So when you pay any money in, then use the paying in form, which you can collect from reception, like I said. But obviously, at the moment, just to make things as secure as possible in terms of COVID, paying money in via bank transfer would be the best thing. So they are the SU's bank details. I'll just kind of give you a brief moment just to jot them down if you want. But like I said, the slides will be available online, so you can come back to them at a later point. Paying money in, it will usually be, like I said, if you're doing it in terms of actual cash, it will usually be from something like if you've sold some cakes on the squares, or held a raffle on the squares, that kind of thing. Otherwise, if it's like for kit, if you're paying for your own kit, or you are paying some money in so that you can do your society can do a big bulk buy of some hoodies, then they are the details you'll need to use. When you do pay in via just via your own personal bank, and you pay into the SU's account, make sure that you include a reference that includes the club society code, and then the reason for the income. So if you don't know your society code, please just get in contact, we'll ask. But for Badminton, for example, it's just BAD. It's always going to be a 3-letter code. So for example, if one of our managers, Dom, was to, I think he's in the chat. I know he's sitting right here, so I know you're in the chat. But if he was going to be ordering some kit, or if he wanted to pay some money in so that he could be included in a bulk order for some kit. He would put BAD and then D.King and then /kit. So it's really simple. Just like any donations from external organizations or individuals, you should also send an email to the SU Finance email address there, just letting them know who you are, how much your payment was in for, what it was for, and then what society or club it was for, and when the payment was made, just so that they don't get confused. Because like I said, when you make a payment in, they have to then essentially section it off to the right places. They need to send it off to the right areas of basically of the bank account. So they might otherwise just see a £20 payment in and not have a clue where it's meant to go. So just really important you get that email to them just so they know. Order equipment. So firstly, just check that it's been allocated in your sports budget, or you've got the money in your society funds to pay for what you're trying to order. And then you also have somewhere to store whatever it is you're ordering. We do have some locker space that's available at the moment. So if you are interested in having some locker space, please get in contact, please email us. We can't guarantee everyone's going to get some space, but we'll do our best. If you are, there's different methods of ordering things. So either email Blades, again, if you're a club, or SU Socks if you're a society, to make the request. So please clearly state the club or society that you're emailing on behalf of. Send direct links to the equipment, so that might be Amazon or wherever you're ordering things off, and include the important information such as the sizes and quantities if that's applicable. So it might be you're ordering 20 medium hoodies and 10 large ones. Just make sure it's clearly stated what you need, and then we can order that equipment for you. Or you can purchase that equipment yourself and then, as we've said, claim the money back using the expenses procedure. But you must have that receipt. So just keep the receipt and we'll make sure that money can get back to you. Any deliveries can be addressed to. So basically you just need to use this address, just entering in your name or your society and your society or club name. This will then get delivered to reception, who will then pass it on to us, and we can keep it in our office just for a couple of days whilst we're waiting for you to come and pick it up. And then when you come and collect your stuff, basically all you need to do is go to reception and ask to pick up whatever it is you're picking up, and they'll give us a ring and we'll bring that down to reception for you. It would be easier just to keep the stuff in reception, but if everyone's doing that, then our reception is going to get really clogged up, and we've got a little bit more room back here in the office. So that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. For Southend campus, that's a good question. It would be whatever the reception is, I would say, for the campus there. I will double check with Kirsty, who obviously works up in South for societies up there as well. Yeah, if you could just pop us an email, Wendy, and so that just reminds me tomorrow morning to get in touch with our Southend campus and ask that'd be great. Thank you. That's a good point. If you are ordering anything like as a bulk thing, like kit, you cannot all collect money into like one person's bank account and then send it into the SU. Everyone has to send that £10 or £20, whatever it's going to be. Everyone has to do that individually and then use these steps that is on this slide here. There's a risk of fraud. It's a risk of certain, like basically avoiding VAT, but always factor in that VAT as well. So if you are making that payment in, so if a hoodie costs say £10, you might want to ask everyone to pay in £12.50 just so you cover that cost. Otherwise you're going to then have to use some society or club money potentially to pay that whole cost in the end as well. So just make sure you're always thinking about covering all of the cost of that you'll incur. Avoid ordering from outside the UK where you can. Anything from outside the UK will be subject to import tax, and also it's obviously just got a risk generally of breaking on the way, things getting lost in transit. So where you can, just avoid ordering from anywhere outside the UK. Sports clubs do not pay VAT on anything that is deemed to be related to a sporting activity. So for best practice, just always assume that you'll have to pay VAT, just so you don't overspend. But yeah, sports clubs, so if you're ordering some kit, or ordering some new equipment, then you won't have to pay that VAT. If the equipment is not in your budget though, but you do need it, then you'll have to fundraise that. And if you overspend, we will be asking you to fundraise. We don't just have extra money that we can give, unfortunately. We wish we did. It would make things a lot easier, but unfortunately we don't. So if you overspend, you will have to do some fundraising, and we will badger you for that. So yeah, just to try and avoid that. So wrapping this up now, so just some final tips or reminders. So really simple, but just stay on top of your finances. Just check your weekly finance reports every week that you get them through. It's going to take 5 or 10 minutes just to literally just have a really quick skim over it and just check that everything is correct. Filling out those expense forms correctly is really, really important, just so there's no confusion with your members or the finance team, that kind of stuff. Make sure that your members are aware of all the processes, you know, especially involving expenses, because they might be doing that this year. Don't keep any money that's been fundraised in what you think is a safe place. It's probably not safe. Just get it paid straight into the SU reception after your event is finished. If by the time your event finishes, SU reception is closed, and you don't feel safe about keeping the money, maybe like in your bedroom at home or wherever it might be, you can always go to the SU bar and ask the manager that is on shift at that point to keep the money in their office. And if they are not happy to do that, then I'm more than happy for you to say that I told you could do that, and I'll take the flak for that. But you can do that. Yeah, another reminder, just don't open any bank accounts that relates to club or society. Don't open any more bank accounts, sorry, on behalf of your club or society. It's just illegal to do it. Yeah, just be proactive. If your club or society needs something and you don't have the money, fundraise, or like I said, use the click option, the click funding option that Liv said about earlier. That gives you, you know, literally free money. So it seems really stupid to not take advantage of that, really. So you might as well. Again, another final reminder about that, the payments, they work on that Wednesday to Wednesday schedule. So just make sure everything's done by 12 o'clock on a Monday, just so we can make sure that the people that need paying get their money. And international payments, they might take longer, and they're probably going to have additional charges to them, and that charge will come out of your society or your club funds. It's not something that the other person getting them, the money will incur. It will be the SU that gets that that charge, and that will come out of your society or club money. So just avoid that where possible, or if you can't avoid it, then just obviously factor that in. So you know, charge a quid extra on everyone's ticket price, or you know, whatever it might be. Just, you know, look at ways you can get the income in to factor in that. And if your committee does not complete its obligations, then payments could be withheld, and your club or society activity might be suspended. Obviously, we don't want things to come into that, but if there's something drastically gone wrong and that's negligence, you know, it's down to negligence, then we might have to look at suspending a club or a society. So these are the other training sessions. Once I've finished the last slide, which is the next one, I'll just kind of leave it back on this one, just in case you haven't got any of these calendar invites. We should hopefully have got these all out to you, but if you haven't, then just jot these down. We look forward to seeing you at those. With the events training tomorrow, that's the last one where the session's being run twice. You only have to attend one of them. It's going to be the same information twice. Obviously, certain different things might be brought up in question and answer sessions and whatnot. So that might be of some use to you, but you don't have to attend. And then all of these sessions will be recorded. If you are a president and your treasurer hasn't been able to attend either of these, or vice versa, then you might just have to make them aware that they will need to be doing a type form quiz at a later point. We understand that's a little bit of a chore to do. However, this does include quite a lot of legal information. So we've just got to make sure that you have definitely read and understood all of the information in it. And yeah, if you've got any other questions, please do ask away now. You can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can put them in the chat. Up to you. If you have got all the information you need, though, and you would like to go ahead with enjoying your evening, then yeah, thank you for coming, and we will see you very soon, hopefully at some more training sessions. Thank you. The recording will be, there'll be a link that will get sent out tomorrow that will just link you to basically what is at the bottom of this slide here with the exec help page, and then you'll be able to see on there, I think it might even be in like a picture from before somewhere. Just check. No, it's on another training session, obviously. But there'll be a button on the exec help page that will clearly state all the different training sessions, and you can click on there, and then you'll be able to find all this information. Cool, thanks everyone. Thanks for attending.